Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Andrew Robinson. For those of you who may be new here, I have noticed that we have picked up quite a few subscribers in the last couple of weeks, so thank you and welcome to my channel. Today we have a fun review, and full disclosure, this is actually the second time that I have sat down to try and review it because this review is just that kind of complicated and tricky for me. So we're going to do our best to get through it today, and of course that means we are talking about none other than the Legend itself, Polk Audio's L800 flagship loudspeaker. Let's get into it. Polk Audio's Legend or L800 loudspeaker is the current flagship of the Polk Audio speaker line, and it really shouldn't need any introduction given the amount of sheer press that it has received since launching late last year. The biggest thing about the L800 is the fact that it uses Polk Audio's SDA Pro patented technology, and really, this is a throwback kind of tech from the 70s and 80s that Polk used to employ in most of their higher-end loudspeakers of that era. Polk has brought it back for 2020 in the L800. And we're going to talk about what the SDA technology brings to the table and how it sounds for better and for worse. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this review, I felt that it was necessary that we just kind of get all of the specs and nitty-gritty details out of the way. So enjoy this tasty B-roll with some nice little specs for all of you, because honestly, we're gonna need all the time in this review to talk about how this speaker actually performs. So roll it. So specs are all well and good, but they do very little to kind of inform you as to what the L800 actually sounds like, or better yet, what it's like to live with day to day. And I'm going to break down this section into three parts: the good, the not so good, and the downright confusing. Because I don't know how else to tackle this review than to just really make it that cut and dry. And you'll understand what I'm talking about in just a few moments. But we're going to start with the good. What is great about the L800? Well, for starters, its party piece, or what Polk claims the L800's greatest attribute is the fact that it has true stereo separation and a soundstage that borders on truly being three-dimensional and to die for. And in that respect, does the L800 deliver? Yes. Yes, it does. When set up properly, when fed the right source material that is mixed with great stereo separation anyway already in the mix. I mean, this is a song or a track or an album that you've listened to through traditional speakers. When playing those types of selections through the L800, the soundstage is in fact to die for. And in many instances, and even with home theater, with only two channels to bear, two L800s in the room, there are times where you will swear that you are listening to a multi-channel or surround sound setup. The soundstage is that vast and that good. And with the right recordings, soundstage detail and accuracy can also be tack sharp. I'm talking about center imaging with rock solid grounding and all of the other instruments and artists placed within that soundstage appropriately with tremendous and epic scale. Those of you that may even like symphonic music, we're talking your Beethovens, Bachs, things like that. These L800s shine in that arena, and they will put you in the middle of the concert hall like arguably no other speaker can. And that is the benefit of the SDA technology. So when you feed it well-recorded material, it just envelops you in sound. And that sound, like I said, is not a wall of sound that's just like, oh my God, but rather something that is actually very spacious, very three-dimensional, and just without equal. And so kudos. Bravo, the L800 does succeed in that regard. Now, as far as its actual tonality, meaning its coherence, its high frequency, mid-range, and bass performance, Again, when set up properly, when using the proper electronics and with the right source material, the coherence between this very large three-way speaker is arguably as seamless as any three-way loudspeaker I have encountered. Starting with the high frequency, starting with the treble, the high frequencies are incredibly, incredibly sharp. They're not fatiguing per se. Again, we are talking about well-recorded music using the proper electronics. They are sharp. They have that ability to be a scalpel to the source. And when done properly, it is incredibly, incredibly nuanced and detailed and fast. You know, for the ring tweeter that is found on the L800, it really shows how far Polk has come with this particular type of a design. And I do think that its implementation in the L800 is their best yet. And it shows in the high frequency performance and delivery of the L800 is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The mid-range is equally impressive. And arguably, in my opinion, the strongest strength of the L800 apart from its three-dimensional soundstage. It is about as uncolored as any mid-range you're going to find near or even above or below this price point. Vocals sound natural in their timbre and inflection. There is no resonance because of the cabinet being incredibly inert in and of itself. And as a result, everything sounds pure, rich, and has an in-room presence that begs belief. Which leads me to the bass. Holy crap. The L800 can play low. I'm talking really, really low. And it can play low with such authority that you would swear it had a built-in subwoofer. It doesn't. It is a ported design, and that port does fire downward and out the front, which makes placement of the L800, at least as it relates to placement to your front wall, incredibly, incredibly accommodating. I know a lot of you saw some of the photos that I posted online of the L800s in my room, and some of you freaked out. You're like, oh my God, you got to pull these away from the wall. You got to pull them away from the wall. In reality, the L800, as it relates to the front wall and its bass performance, does not need to be that far out from the front wall. In fact, Polk Audio's own manual states that it's not so much about the front wall performance or front wall placement than it is in the speaker's relation to sidewalls. And so you get all of that sound reinforcement from the speaker being closer to the wall, which you're going to want, and then all of the bass energy being projected downward and forward. And as a result, you get incredibly tuneful, firm bass that with like drum recordings or movies, oh my God, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But the best part is there's not a lot of bloat or overhang, so it doesn't rumble or rattle things. It's just always, always firm, and I absolutely love it. And like I said, the coherence between all three sections of the speaker's performance, bass, mid-range, and treble, is amazing, and that comes down to the loudspeaker's not only design, but its crossover. And it has a very, very fine crossover indeed. And the fact that it's all housed in these massively heavy and inert cabinet means that you're not hearing any rattles, you're not hearing any cabinet resonance or boxy colorations with this speaker at all. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And at roughly $6,000 a pair, the L800s can in fact hang with some of the best loudspeakers on the market today. Full stop. So that's the good. Here's the bad. Everything that I just described about the L800 is 100% achievable, possible, and able to be enjoyed by anyone who may be thinking about picking these loudspeakers up for yourself, provided you do a couple of things. And these couple of things are really, really, really important. Number one, the L800 is one of the most picky loudspeakers I have ever encountered in terms of what it is connected to. That means that having an amplifier that is just of a high caliber or high power means nothing to the L800. It not only needs to be able to drive an incredibly difficult load, I'm talking it needs to be stable down below 2 ohms. And a lot of amplifiers, even a lot of high-powered amplifiers, aren't capable of doing this. And so you may have a 200, 250, or even 300 watt amplifier in your system right now. And it is possible that that amplifier will be incapable of driving the L800s to their absolute pinnacle of performance. And when that happens, the L800s sound nothing like what I just described to you. In fact, they are among the more vague, fuzzy, soft, and even sometimes fatiguing loudspeakers I've ever encountered. And so getting the system right, getting the mix right, is of crucial importance in order to extract everything that this loudspeaker has to give. So let's talk about getting the mix right. So while electronics are important, the source material that you feed the L800s is of equal importance, because if it's a poor recording, all of the spaciousness, all of that three-dimensional sound reproduction that I spoke about just a moment ago will simply not be there. And if anything, the fact that the L800 uses the SDA technology to create that sense of space and surround sound out of 2 speakers, poorly recorded material just sounds vague. Just sounds vague. And you'll sit there and you'll wonder where all the imaging went. Your center will disappear. The speakers themselves will not aurally disappear. They'll be very much locatable. So you'll only hear the right, you'll only hear the left. There'll be nothing in the middle. The soundstage will completely collapse, and you'll just be scratching your head. You'll be scratching your head. And this makes the L800 one of the more inconsistent loudspeakers I have ever encountered, because you can experience this within the same album. Like, you can start playing an album and track 1, you're in heaven. It's amazing. You're like, oh my God, this is the best $6,000 I've ever spent. I'm getting buried with these loudspeakers when I die. I'm in heaven. Track 2 will come on, and you'll literally stare at them and go, where did it all go? And then track 3 will come, and it's back to being heavenly. And it's that picky. The L800 is that picky. And I have to assume on some level that this has to do with the SDA Pro technology that it employs. Because playing these same albums through other more traditional loudspeakers in our home, I simply did not experience this. And so it is that SDA technology that was the only variable that led me to believe that sometimes it works great and it is an out-of-body or out-of-ear experience, and other times it falls completely flat and results in a sonic performance that is baffling, is really, really quite baffling. And that is the most frustrating thing that I found about the L800s, apart from the fact that system matching became so much more important than I think I was ready to believe, because Polk audio speakers historically have been incredibly easy to drive, incredibly easy to live with, incredibly easy to just recommend. I mean, they're Polk. They're Polk audio speakers. Like, there's nothing offensive about them. And here we have the L800 kind of acting like a, I don't want to say a prima donna, but definitely acting like, you know, a much more kind of high and mighty loudspeaker that requires you on some level to conform to its needs, as opposed to the other way around. And these are the two biggest caveats that I have with the L800. These are the two things that I did not like about it, was the fact that it took 3 or 4 different amplifiers to get the mixture right. And ultimately, it wasn't the amplifier with the most power. It was a project integrated amplifier that just was really capable of driving the difficult load of the L800 that ultimately made them sing and made them sound glorious. But even when I had the amplifier right, it was largely up to the source material. And if the source material wasn't mixed to that highest nth degree, it still didn't matter. It still did not matter. And the third caveat, and this one is a little bit lower on the totem pole, but the third caveat is in fact that the L800s do like a certain kind of room. In order for the three-dimensionality kind of sphere of sound to present itself, it does need a little bit of boundary reinforcement, more specifically kind of sidewall reinforcement. And Christy and I live in an open concept house that has an L-shaped main living space. And so as you can see in some of my photos and in the B-roll, like the left speaker has a sidewall, approximately 3 or so feet away from the speaker itself, whereas the right speaker, the nearest sidewall is almost 20 feet away. And with a speaker like the L800 that relies a little bit on some boundary reinforcement or boundary compensation with the creation of space, not having a sidewall off of the right speaker means that everything kind of pulled a little bit more left. Now I could easily fix this, and I did, with balance or by adjusting the individual levels of each speaker. But know this going in, that if you have an irregular room, you have an open concept room, the L800s are a loudspeaker that prefer symmetry. And if you have something that is symmetrical, not square, but symmetrical, then you are likely going to enjoy the most effective three-dimensional sound space that they have to give. So in the beginning of this review, I said that I was going to break this review down into 3 parts: good, bad, and the confusing. So what was confusing about the L800? Well, to be honest with you, what confused me the most about the L800 was the fact that at $6,000 a pair, and this being Polk's flagship, this being a 25-year throwback to the technology that made Polk famous, I really kind of wonder why it didn't feel like they went all the way. And what I mean by that is the L800 is a massive achievement. It is. It's a good-looking speaker, and it is well designed, very well constructed, and every bit a Polk audio speaker of the modern era through and through. But that's kind of the problem for me. That was the thing that confused me, because at $6,000 a pair, it doesn't look any different or appear any more special than any Polk audio speaker that they've made in, say, the last 5 or even 10 years. And if anyone walking in off the street came into my room or a showroom and saw the entire Legend line all lined up, across one another, they would know that the L800 was the big dog because it is just simply bigger. But there's nothing else that really makes it stand out. There's nothing that lends it gravitas apart from its sheer scale and size. And as a result, your $6,000, in my opinion, is not buying you a whole lot of nostalgia feels. It's just kind of getting you a big hulking speaker. A big hulking speaker that is actually very difficult to live with, and one that I don't see the majority of Polk owners gravitating towards. And the other thing that I found very confusing too was it's 2020. And if this SDA technology has kind of been off the market for 25 years, yes, bring it, by all means, bring it back. But update it. Bring it into the future. Like, flex a little and show people what's possible with modern tech. But instead, we were treated to this same kind of garden hose pigtail connection that you have to run between both speakers in order to achieve this effect. This cable is of utmost importance. It does come with the loudspeaker, but if you don't use it, oh my God, these speakers are just awful. Outright awful. You're better off with anything else. But that also means that you have this thick, like I said, garden hose-like cable that is tethering your right and left speakers together on top of needing speaker cables. And if you buy wire or buy amp these things, of which they can do that, you're talking about six sets of cables running to the back of this thing. Add the optional Atmos module that plugs right into the top for an extra $600, and now there are eight cables coming out of this bad boy. And I just argue that in 2020, nostalgia is one thing, but not bringing 30-plus-year-old tech into the future, in my opinion, is a swing and a miss. And the fact that these don't really trade on the Polk speakers of yesteryear in terms of like their styling. I mean, down to the finishes. Like Polk doesn't even give you, for your $6,000, they don't even give you the option of finishes that are of a higher caliber or even of a different ilk than what you get in the Legend 100 bookshelf. You get black ash or you get the same Polk cherry wood that's been around forever. And so of all the companies that are kind of throwing back to their past right now, and there are a lot of them, the L800 manages to sound among the best when you do it properly. But they kind of missed like the whole second verse of why you would want to do this in the first place. And so it kind of baffles me a little bit, because on the one hand, they sound very special when everything is right. But on the other hand, there's nothing really special about the ownership or day-to-day living with the L800 that is any really that different than had you bought a lesser Polk speaker or any other speaker. And then the fact that you have to kind of tailor your taste to what's going to make them work and perform at their best means that these aren't even a speaker for every occasion. And because of those caveats, those confusing little tidbits for me, I don't know if I can recommend this loudspeaker to the masses. I actually don't fully understand who this loudspeaker is for, other than a true dyed-in-the-wool, dedicated Polk audio fan, or someone that remembers SDA from their youth and wants it today and can afford it today because maybe they were 20 years old when it came out and they didn't have the kind of bank account that they needed to afford $6,000 loudspeakers. But apart from that, I don't know who this loudspeaker is going to ultimately appeal to, because it is so big, it is so cumbersome, and frankly, it is difficult to live with. And it does not sound good with everything that you may want to throw at it. And so that's my review. That's why I've needed to sit with this. That's why I've sat down to record this thing twice, because I wanted to give the L800s the most fair and honest shake that I could, but it really did take doing it twice to wrap my brain around all of my thoughts as it pertains to the L800. So that's my review, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this a speaker that's been on your radar? Is this a speaker you are dying to hear, or have you heard it and you have a differing opinion than mine? I want to know. Sound off in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please do like and subscribe. I've noticed that a number of you watch these videos, but you're not subscribers. It would really help me out a lot if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you're notified, so that you don't miss these when they come out. And like I said, welcome all of you who are new to this channel. I hope this review and the videos that we've put out in the last couple of weeks have been of interest to you. And if you want more kind of behind the scenes or what's coming up next, you know, you're going to want to make sure that you follow me on Instagram, and I will put that link also in the description below. So that's it, guys. That's all I got. I got to get out of here. But remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye. There's no joy in my face because honestly, I don't know what to say about the speaker. I've only encountered this like 3 or 4 times in my entire career. If you don't have the sun in your living room to power the fuckers, like times, like sounds will just be like, holy shit. But that doesn't make it bad. It's frustrating is what it is.